Jonathan Hale, a 42-year-old real estate tycoon in Seattle, had seen thousands of employees pass through his company, but Emily Carter stood out for reasons even he couldn't explain. At 34, she was efficient, quiet, and almost invisible, arriving before everyone, leaving after everyone, never joining office gatherings. Her clothes were simple, her shoes worn, yet her work was flawless. When Jonathan overheard that she had rejected a promotion because she didn't have time, something in him tightened. People usually begged for promotions, Emily avoided one. He asked her gently, but she smiled with that distant politeness and said she couldn't take on more responsibility right now. The answer gnawed at him. His instincts, those that built his empire, told him she was hiding something. After days of wrestling with the thought, he made a decision he'd never made before. He would follow her after work, not out of suspicion, but deep concern. Keeping his distance, he watched her take 2 buses into a rundown neighborhood. She entered a dim apartment building, and when Jonathan quietly followed, his breath caught. Emily knelt beside an elderly woman hooked to an oxygen tank, 2 small children asleep nearby. Bills, medicine, exhaustion, she carried it all alone. And he finally understood. Jonathan slipped out of the building before Emily could notice him, but the scene he witnessed refused to leave his mind. That night he lay awake, replaying the dim room, the children on the floor, and Emily whispering strength she barely had. By morning, he was no longer thinking like a CEO, he was thinking like a man who had failed someone who silently depended on him. At the office, he reviewed her file again. Perfect performance, no complaints, no requests for help. She had carried this burden in absolute silence. He contacted his legal and HR teams, quietly expanding company programs, medical support, emergency family care, transportation aid, changes that would help Emily without exposing her situation. Still, he wanted to speak to her, to reach her. When Emily stepped into his office later that day, she looked terrified. Jonathan asked a simple question, "Are you okay?" She hesitated, then forced a smile and said she was fine. He knew it wasn't true. That evening he arranged an anonymous foundation grant to cover her mother's medical needs. 2 weeks later, Emily approached him with tears in her eyes, thanking him for the new support programs. She never knew the truth, and he never told her. Emily walked through the next weeks feeling lighter, though she couldn't understand why. The new company support programs had covered her mother's medical equipment and provided childcare assistance for her sister's kids. For the first time in years, she wasn't choosing between groceries and oxygen bills. Still, she never imagined Jonathan had anything to do with it. To her, he was distant, powerful, and far above the struggles she lived with every day. But Jonathan watched her quietly, not as a boss, but as someone who finally saw the truth behind her silence. He noticed her arriving at work looking more rested, more present. He noticed her offering small smiles she once hid. It reassured him, yet it also pulled him closer, a feeling he didn't expect. He admired her resilience, her strength, her dignity in suffering. One afternoon, as Emily prepared documents for him, her hands trembled slightly. He immediately caught it. "Emily," he said softly, "you don't have to do everything alone." The words stunned her. She looked up, eyes filled with quiet exhaustion she could no longer mask. For the first time, she whispered, "I'm trying, but it's been hard." Jonathan nodded gently, realizing she was finally letting someone in, even if just a little. In the days that followed, something subtle shifted between them. Emily no longer avoided his gaze, and Jonathan no longer hid his concern behind a CEO's distance. Their conversations grew a little longer, softer, more human. Yet Jonathan remained careful, always respecting her boundaries, never revealing how much he already knew. He simply tried to be present, offering support without making her feel small. One evening, Emily stayed late to finish reports. As she gathered her things, the power flickered from a passing storm. Jonathan appeared at her office door, umbrella in hand, asking if she needed a ride home. She hesitated, then nodded, grateful, not intimidated. The drive was quiet but comfortable, rain tapping gently on the windshield. For the first time, she allowed herself to relax beside him. When they arrived at her building, Emily paused before stepping out. "I don't know why you've been so kind to me," she said softly, "but it means more than you know." Jonathan didn't trust himself to speak without revealing too much, so he only replied, "You deserve kindness, Emily." She smiled, small but genuine, the kind of smile that carried hope. And as he watched her walk inside, he knew his heart had changed forever.